Welcome to your April 2024 Astrology Forecast. This is just an overview of all of the transits happening in April. Let me tell you, it's a pretty impactful month. We got a lot going on. Just a couple of notes before we get into the transits for this month. This is geared towards business owners. It speaks to the collective energy. It may be hitting people's charts differently. However, a majority of people will be feeling or have access to tap into these energies. So when it comes to doing business, we are communicating, selling to working with the collective. So it's kind of just a nice forecast to see what things will be received well, what things might not be received well. And in addition, on a personal level, what days might be better to get some things done, might be better to create some things, all that sorts of stuff. It also does not include every single transit that's happening. If you are looking for information on transits, all the transits, then you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok, where every Monday I post a summary of all the transits happening for the week. My handles are in the description down below. Last reminder, this is a forecast, which basically just explains the conditions of what's going on. There's no definitive sign that these are things that are absolutely going to happen. It's just saying that there's energy available, accessible for these things to happen. Whether people tap into that access, tap into that energy, is up to each person. Starting the month off strong, on April 1st, Mercury moves into retrograde, where it will stay in retrograde until April 25th. It will stay in Aries for the duration of its retrograde. Now, Mercury retrograde gets a lot of publicity on the internet. We hear people talk about it because honestly, I feel like it's the one that we feel the most. We see disruptions from this retrograde the easiest because it's really in our face. Mercury has to do with communications, transportation, the way we think, the way we process things. So all of those things get slowed down and kind of go backwards. So that can bring some disruption into things. Digital files may go missing, may get misplaced. We forget where we put things. Social media posts and drafts may just get deleted. Or if you post them, they may get misconstrued, be received in ways you didn't mean for them to be received. So have backup plans, put things into places, write down where you put things. Plan for things to get lost, if that makes sense. Mercury ruling transportation. Also be prepared for yourself or teammates to get lost on the way to places, have unexpected traffic jams running, which causes things to run late. Might be traffic collisions. I hope nothing of any pain or hurtful ones, just little bumper things like that. But those things do get a little wonky. I would set up high communication expectations. So if you're relying on a teammate or someone to show up, you're super clarifying, you're saying, hey, are you going to be there? Double checking, text me when you leave, things like that. Put in communications in place so you can be on top of things and react just a little bit faster. I will say this Mercury retrograde is in Aries, which is, more action oriented, a little bit more initiating. It's a cardinal fire sign, so likes to start things. So this retrograde may feel a little less retrograde-y than the other ones that we've experienced in more recent pasts. Aries is about new beginnings. There's a lot of Aries energy this month, not to mention the solar eclipse. So I feel like this Mercury retrograde is about revisiting things, reflecting on things, redoing things that create space for something new. Notice I said a lot of things. That's what Mercury retrograde is all about. Revisiting, redoing, reviewing, going back to things, looking at them again. I wouldn't recommend Mercury retrograde to start brand new projects. However, if you're digging up a project from the past, revamping it, perfect timing for that kind of thing. Looking back at your protocols, looking back at your systems, looking back at those automated emails, all that kind of stuff. It's a great time to be doing that right now. So with the energy being about redoing, reviewing, and it being in Aries, this is a fantastic time for second chances. Maybe returning to a product or service that you never launched, revisiting a past way of doing things, revisiting old clients or customers, nurturing your current client list or email list, really spending a lot of time on that because they've already come to you. Brand new clients and customers might be a little hesitant or not ready to move forward yet. So, don't be too caught up if those things aren't moving forward. Just really nurture the ones that you already have in your pocket or already have touch base with. On April 4th, Venus moves into Aries, yet another planet going into Aries. It's going to stay here through April 27th. Venus in Aries brings spontaneity, brings enthusiasm, brings directness into relationships, your finances, the things that you value. With this happening during a retrograde, I feel like this is a superb time to revisit your financial goals, your financial systems, the way you organize your finances, anything around finances, reviewing those things. I know I just set some new financial goals. I was really motivated to do so. It felt great. It felt really achievable, and I'm actually really excited to make those goals. Check in with your subscriptions, reevaluate your expenses, maybe invest in that thing that you've been thinking about investing in for your business for a while and you put it on the back burner. Now might be a good time to move forward with that. Brand new ideas that you're investing in, maybe not, but maybe if there's that course or something like that, now might be a good time. The solar eclipse, which is a new moon, happens on April 8th. We are in between eclipses. We're in the midst of eclipse season at the beginning of April. The first one happening in March, and 2 weeks later, we get the new moon solar eclipse. So every single solar eclipse is a new moon, which always represents new beginnings. And Aries is also a season of new beginnings, spring, blossoms, all that good stuff. So this is a supercharged new moon in an area of new beginnings. So new beginnings is a freaking theme here. I expect drastic new beginnings. I don't know what that looks like, but there's just a lot of big motion happening in April. So I feel like that could be the beginning of things changing in a big way. Eclipse season offers really chaotic energy. It's hard to plan in this energy when you're a business owner. I'm not gonna lie. So the best thing we can plan for is the unexpected, which is annoying. I know, I'm sorry. But it's true. Leave a little room for flow. Don't be creating deadlines that your business really depends on. If you can push them out, not in April, in May, once the chaos has settled from April, that would be ideal. If you have to move forward with it, move forward with flexibility. Eclipses always involve the moon, so the moon rules our emotions. Emotions are going to be high. It's also a time to feel into our emotions. So there's not too much planning that can happen around this time that's going to always pan out. Instead, let your emotions guide you a little bit. Not fully take the lead, but lean into them. See where they're going to take you. This solar eclipse is closely conjunct to Mercury, again in Aries, which means there's going to be a taste of change in the way we communicate, the ways we think, the ways we travel. So see what comes up and be open to what comes your way, as it could provide unexpected solutions. On April 10th, we get Mars conjunct Saturn. This happens once every 2 years or so. This transit can go a couple ways. It does lead to some frustration, some irritability, Mars tends to be a bit more aggressive about the ego, and Saturn is more so about restriction and boundaries, which, you know, can lead to frustration. It's also about responsibility, which, you know, isn't always fun to own up to, isn't always fun to do the responsible thing. So we get annoyed. However, this energy can be really productive if it's channeled into something that, you know, takes hard work. Saturn loves hard work. And so if we have a project that is taking our time, taking our mind space, then it kind of directs that energy that we're feeling. And instead of feeling frazzled, we can just focus on the task at hand. This is a good time to be hunkering down and doing those tasks that are not so fun, not so desirable, not so inspiring. Maybe things that are more admin based if you're not into that. Things that have redundant tasks. If you haven't started your taxes yet or finished your taxes, things like that just aren't really that fun, but they're responsible. You know, the things that you need to do for your business that, you know, keep things together. This would be a really good time to focus your energy on that. These two meet up in the sign of Pisces, which isn't so familiar with boundaries. So set expectations for yourself, set timers. If you're feeling yourself getting super frustrated, go take a break, go for a walk outside, do something to break things up. We don't have to be so black and white as Saturn likes us to be. Have some compassion for yourself. Take initiative if things aren't working. Don't take the escape route, which is very Piscean. But this transit is all about taking initiative. So instead of falling into the intense emotions that this transit can bring, do something differently. Figure something else out. There is a little bit of creative energy because of the Piscean energy. So bring that creative energy into your problem solving. Maybe you'll find a new way to go about these things so they're not so redundant. On that same day, April 10th, we have Venus conjunct the North Node. This is a time when your creativity is heightened, and what you create during this time may be more aligned with your true purpose. Now, I know this is opposing energy from what I just spoke about with the Mars conjunct Saturn transits, so, you know, it might play out either way. As for the Venus conjunct North Node transit, take some time to create some things through playing, you know, nothing serious. Just play a little bit. Don't worry about it being perfect. That's not the energy that this is. Just play. See what comes to you. See where you're guided, because maybe it will push you in the direction that you need to be going in. Folks are really attuned to beauty and harmony. So if you have an artistic business, if you're an artist, if you're a musician, people will be ready to receive your art during this transit. So really good time to put it out there. Promising business relationships may form around this time as well. This is a time where we can gain a lot from those around us. Because it's happening at the same time as Mars conjunct Saturn, there is that irritability, there is that annoyance. So both of these are kind of, they're balancing each other out a little bit. So it's not going to be fully one, fully the other. They're opposing energies in a way. So I think this transit will balance out the frustrations of the Mars conjunct Saturn, so long as we're leaning into our creativity, leaning into our social relationships, and leaning into creating harmony. April 19th through the 21st, there's a lot going on. So let's start with Mars sextile to Jupiter, which happens on April 19th. This is a fantastic energy for initiating a new project. Not so much as like launching a new project, putting something out there, but maybe if we're in the brainstorm session. I say that because all of this is still happening within the Mercury retrograde. If it's a project that we're revisiting, now that's a little different. There is a lot of energy for initiating new things within that project and moving things forward. Jupiter is very fortunate, so it'll bring a lot of good luck into any of the projects that we start or continue during this time. So on April 19th, we have the sun moving into Taurus. Happy birthday to all my Taurus people out there. Taurus is the fixed earth sign, okay? It's grounded, it's determined, it's steady, and it's also focused on material goods, money and food and things like that. So we may be more motivated towards getting those things, which before that can happen, we've got to make the money. So this is a good time for business owners. This whole season is a good time for business owners to gain momentum in doing the things that are going to, in the end, lead you to more income. Taurus is ruled by Venus, and she likes nice things. Maybe go out to a nice meal. If you can, if you have the means to buy something nice that's of quality, okay? Not no Temu stuff. No, we're talking nice quality, soft, luxurious. If you can't, don't go out of your means to do these things. If you don't have the spends, you may be called to spend these things. So if that's something you don't want to do, really be extra cautious. Stay off online shopping. You know, no window shopping if you don't have the spends to do that right now, because you'll be pulled to do so. Taurus season is also notorious for overindulging. So again, if you don't have the means to be spending that kind of money, let's not fall into that trap. On April 20th, we have the big conjunction of this year, which is Jupiter conjunct Uranus. This transit happens once every 13 to 14 years. Sometimes we experience it 2 to 3 times within a 2-year span, depending on the retrograde and if it hits that same spot multiple times in the retrograde. Around, we will only get one connection, and the next time we get this connection is in 2037. So this conjunction is happening in the sign of Taurus, which, like I mentioned before, represents material goods, money, food, anything that makes us feel materially comfortable. Uranus rules disruption, okay? It also rules the future, liberation, technology. Jupiter rules growth, prosperity, optimism, generosity, and justice. It's also referred to the Great Benefic, which brings good fortune. So it's more of a sought after planet. So when we have a transit happening with Jupiter, generally it's on the more beneficial side of things. These two coming together in the sign of Taurus gives the energy of disruptive changes that bring expansiveness and growth to the collective. Because it's happening with a lot of other Aries placements and just after the eclipse, I expect some sort of drastic change. Maybe something disruptive that brings us together, maybe something that brings justice to those who have been fighting for it. It could be a not so joyful event that eventually brings something more positive. It could be none of these at all. Looking back into history, at these past dates, there's some of these transits where there wasn't really any big news at all. And other years, there was pretty big news for humanity. For example, in 1969, the humans walked on the moon for the first time. In 1983, Lebanon, the US and Israel signed an agreement to get Israel out of Lebanon. Might be helpful. I did notice that there was like frequent news of nuclear warnings, nuclear threats, all false, and obviously none of them have come through. But it kind of makes sense to me that there's stuff on like nuclear news, nuclear threats. I don't expect any of them to follow through, but I feel like the talk could come up. So don't be scared. There's also a lot of space news around these transits in the past. I wouldn't be surprised if there were new discoveries, new technologies in the space realm. Again, Uranus is, I hate to say it, but expect the unexpected. So we don't really know what's going to happen. It could really change things up a lot in ways that make things, whatever plans we have now, may not work at all come May. So just be ready for like drastic changes, just in case. Just be flexible for drastic changes. We don't need to be scared. I think we are equipped to handle whatever's going to happen. So don't be scared, but just be aware. This transit is exact on April 20th. However, we'll be feeling it all month and in a couple weeks into May as well. It's a big transit. On the next day, on April 21st, we get the Sun squaring Pluto. Now, this isn't necessarily a fantastic day for business, but I do like to warn business owners about this day. With this transit, there's power dynamics at play. So this can show up in a lot of ways. If you're a business owner with a team, it's a good time to reflect on how you're managing your team. Are you disempowering anybody on your team? Are you fostering an environment where they can do their best? This day, we might lash out. We might not be the best of leaders if we're not moving with intention. This day can bring frustrations and feelings of powerlessness, which generally leads to people being defensive. This is not a good day for trying to convince somebody of this whole new mindset. People may really be holding on to their belief systems, and if you're challenging those, they get super triggered and defensive, which is generally always the case whenever you challenge someone's belief system. But this day, people are really going to be holding on. So it's not a day of convincing. It's not a day for fighting for your opinion. If things aren't aligning, just leave it for this day, give it a couple days, and come back to it if it makes sense to. Folks are just going to be less open-minded on and around this day. If people are closed off, like I said, just leave it. On April 28th, we have Mars conjunct Neptune. This is another day to look out for. People are going to be very triggered on this day. Mars is about our ego. There's some aggression in there, and Neptune can bring anxiety. So people might be anxious, and instead of, turning inward and, being introverted or staying home or anything like that, they may be putting that anxious energy outwards. We're going to be defensive, okay? People may be acting in defense, in aggression, out of paranoia. Best advice for this day: don't take things personally. For example, if somebody might leave a negative, nasty comment on one of your posts, instead of being like, oh, well, and getting back and responding to them and getting in that defensive mode, let it settle for a couple days. If you want to come back to it and respond later, just give it a few days so that it's not just this fight. And now we've created some negative energy on your Instagram or on your whatever platform you're using. Take a breather, take a break, come back to it another day. It's also a day that brings about some confusion. We may be taking action in a direction that we're unsure of or in the wrong direction because we can't fully see the picture or have all the information yet, especially with this happening. Actually, we are out of Mercury retrograde at this point. However, we're still in shadow, still a little bit foggy during this transit. Might be a better day to get some work done at home rather than putting yourself out there and really being out into the public if your business runs like that. If you have some days where you're more at home creating versus, making a bunch of social media posts. Your social media posts might not be received in the way you intend them to, or you may come off as aggressive in your posts. So, okay, maybe just a day for hunkering down, getting some work done, getting some creative stuff done. This transit could be used creatively. Neptune does bring a little bit of creativity, imagination. So maybe if we're taking action in ways that are imaginative, again, maybe in a safe space, like at home on your whiteboard or with somebody that you trust, or you need to come up with solutions in a creative way, something like that. Last transit we're going to talk about here is on April 30th. which is when Mars moves into Aries. Mars loves being in Aries. Aries is ruled by Mars, so it is at home in Mars, okay? It's like, yes, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is a very welcomed energy, especially now that we are officially out of Mercury retrograde. Again, we're still in shadow, but the planet is moving forward, okay? So we're action oriented. We are initiating things. We're going to have some fire under our ass when it's time to move forward. We're enthusiastic, we're optimistic, we're ready to go. The way we assert ourselves is very direct. There's not going to be any fluff. We're not going to have any patience for fluff. If you want to see how these things play out for you personally, then go to my website, which is in the bio below. And I've got plenty of forecasts ahead. I have the month ahead. I have the quarter ahead, which is just the next 3 months. Doesn't have to be at the beginning of a quarter or season. I have the year ahead, which is the next 12 months. Whenever you do it, we'll look at the next 12 months. Doesn't have to be at the beginning or end of a year. This is really helpful if you are trying to see how these things play out for you personally. So for example, let's say Mars is in Aries. We talk about what house that is for you, if it forms any aspects with other planets in your natal chart. So let's say your Saturn is in Aries, then Mars in Aries is going to look very different for you than somebody who has Saturn in another space. So we'll be looking at those things and how they impact you personally. If you want to see all the astrology transits that are happening, make sure you do get to my Instagram or my TikTok, where you'll see each transit's happening for the week. They're posted on Mondays, and they are in text form if you don't want to sit through a video. So be sure to check that out. Lastly, if you want this information in your inbox on a monthly basis in text form, both the text or the link to the YouTube, make sure you sign up for my newsletter. All that information is in the description below. If you like this video, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, share it with somebody. Thank you so much for being here.